Hey, TCC. Well, my car broke down, so I thought this was probably God telling me I needed to answer the help me understand questions that have been submitted for the last couple months. So I apologize for the delay. The first one I'm going to answer is the one that was submitted back in July. So again, I apologize. I presume this was probably when we were going through Romans 9 through 11. And the question is, if God already knows where we are going, heaven or hell, why did he have some people go to heaven and some go to hell? That's a tough one. That's the dilemma, right? To be totally honest, like, this is a very challenging one. And as we stepped through Romans 9 through 11, it's difficult for us to fully grasp, right? Especially when we ask why questions of God that are really go back to creation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down a couple pieces to this. I'm not going to give you an answer because, frankly, I think it's challenging. I don't think that there is a good, complete way to answer the question fully. So first, what I'll say is, you asked, if God knows where we're going, why does he choose some to go to heaven and some go to hell? Well, so first, God's knowledge of something does not mean that he orchestrates it, right? It does not mean just simply because he knows that we are going to commit a sin. It does not mean that he is causing us to sin. So those are two different things. So you can kind of mull on that one a little bit. It doesn't give him an excuse, though, right? Because he still ordains and allows and permits things to happen. He's sovereign, right? So there's nothing that happens that's not within his purview. So it's not as if your sin tomorrow catches God off guard. So he still has some level of responsibility as a sovereign God. And if you remember when I went through this back when we were going through the middle part of Romans there, I said we have to preserve God's sovereignty, but we also have to preserve his love. And those are two characteristics of God that we know that he has throughout the rest of the biblical witness. And so we can't compromise one in favor of another, right? So if we compromise his sovereignty and go, well, maybe his knowledge means he did not actually choose the destiny of the individuals, and heaven or hell are their own doings, and God's just watching things happen. Well, that preserves God's love, but not his sovereignty. So that's the tough part. On the other side of things, there are some people that go, the term is reprobation, that God doesn't choose people to go to hell, that he passes over them and chooses some people, chooses to rescue some people. And so it seems as though God's sovereignty remains intact. And so what God does then is he's gracious and loving to those whom he pulls out of the pit of depravity. With all of us going to hell, he rescues some. Sounds like it works. The problem, though, is he's also omnipotent, so he has the power to save all. Why would he choose to save some if he could save all? I don't have an answer to that one either. These are really deep discussion points, and honestly, I encourage you to continue to ask these questions, and I'm going to have a follow-on one here that's going to address some of this as well. But it is challenging. Here's what we know. We know that hell is away from the presence of God. That's how it's described in the Bible. And heaven is in the presence of God. We see most of the witnesses and most of the discussion and the biblical witness, that is, of hell. While it sounds bad, weeping and gnashing of teeth, I've often thought that perhaps the people that are in hell continue forever to resist the authority of God in their lives. And so while they may not like hell, they would prefer hell to being under and servants to the Creator God. When when we go down that route, it kind of makes us feel a little bit better, because it kind of seems as though these people then have selected their own choice, and they're there of their own accord. But then you read that God knit us together in our mother's womb, and so therefore, however our hearts are conditioned, there's some responsibility or oversight from the sovereign God as well. So I told you, I probably just created about 20 more questions than you started with, but I hope that this just continues to fire up, like how does this work? And frankly, in conclusion, we don't know exactly how and why God did the things that he did, but we have to preserve God's sovereignty and his love. And if we do those two things and are constantly bouncing back and forth and being okay with not knowing fully how they work together, then I think we're in a good spot, and we'll continue to discover the mysteries of God, and all of them will be revealed someday when we're in his presence. All right, I hope that was helpful. I don't think it was, but thank you for the question.